Although I do want to find the Maude. There's an episode of Maude called Maude Sees a UFO or a Flying Saucer because UFOs were big in the 70s.
Right, yeah.
And I would like to see that episode.
I don't think I've ever seen that episode.
They were jumping on all the fads back then. Maude saw a UFO, and I think next week Walter, her husband, had an affair with a Sasquatch. And
I do remember that episode. I do remember that episode. I do. That was that, and then the next week was the episode where Carol found the lost city of Atlantis.
Right.
I do remember that little story arc. Yes. Good television. Good television. They don't write them like that anymore, do they?
It's the SETI Bimco Show with your hosts, Tim and John. They both took aspirin this morning, so watch out.
So John, this is episode. What episode is this?
Are we on episode
7?
7? Lucky number 7?
Oh my God! I hate the number 7. That's the worst times table. I had a hard time. Did you have a hard time with the 7 times table in math?
Now that you mention it, I did have a little bit of a hard time with the 7 times table. I think because it's an odd number and it's very hard to add.
It is.
It's very hard to add. I do remember the 9 times tables being very easy.
Yep, I know the trick.
You know the trick, yes. Mm-hmm. We're going to keep it to ourselves. Let's keep it to ourselves.
Yeah, this isn't a math show.
It isn't a math show, but it could.
This is a show about.
This is a show about Maude
and life
and life and Maude.
Did anything happen to you this week that you want to tell me about?
Well, what's going on? So I'm trying to get people to listen to the podcast.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, so have you listened to a podcast? And they're like, well, no, because we went to go see the Batman.
Well, they only got time in their week for one thing.
I guess so. I'm like, wait a second. You mean my podcast? And do we really need another Batman movie? Like, if aren't people getting the story? Like, do you need to keep maybe if they're not getting the story, maybe it's just not a very good story. Is all I'm saying. It's like they didn't go 10 years after Gone with the Wind and go, you know what? We need to reshoot this movie. Maybe have the South win this time. They never said that, not once.
Knock on wood, John.
Or maybe, well, yeah. Actually, the verdict isn't in on that, whether or not the South won in the end or not. But it's or maybe it's just to take up time till the next Spider-Man movie comes out. I don't know.
You don't want me to start because I know a little too much about this realm that I sometimes work in.
Oh, enlighten me, Tim. Enlighten me.
No.
Give me a little insight.
No one wants to know.
Or you can't.
All I'm saying is that, Disney bought Marvel, the Muppets, and Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Warner Brothers has the DC comic characters, and you got Paramount that owns Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah.
And they're all leaning into these IPs they own because I don't know if you know this, but there are 5 Star Trek shows on the Paramount Network. And as you know, Disney has Star Wars shows.
Right.
So, yeah, they just have to keep competing. They did the Christian Bale, Christopher Nolan Batmans, and now they're going to do, what's his name? Robert Pattinson. And Zack Snyder did Justice League, and Ben Affleck was the Batman in that movie. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that, yes.
Which one did you see, though? The recut Zack Snyder one that came to HBO?
I originally saw the original that came on HBO, and then I did see the director's cut.
Oh.
What was that, about a year or two later?
Oh, my God.
No, I did watch it because that was my comic book as a kid, was Justice League. I love Justice League.
And which one did you like better?
Oh, definitely the second one, the director's cut.
Yeah. That was the better one. That was the correct answer, John, because if you answered wrong, I would have shut this down and started looking for a new co-host.
Looking for a new co-host. I will get up with SAG-AFTRA, though, if my contract is breached at all. I know my rights. But you know what movie, though, I really did like was the Superman versus Batman movie.
Oh, you did? I admit I didn't see that one. I didn't see it, so I can't say much about it.
I liked it because I was always under the impression that, and I believe this was true, that in of course, back then there wasn't a DC universe. It was more like there was a Superman universe and there was a Batman universe, and neither would the two meet.
Well, that was a long time ago, John. You're not that.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about like the 40s, 50s, yeah.
Yes.
But I always thought that Metropolis and Gotham City were just different versions of New York City.
True. Although some people think Gotham is Chicago, but go ahead.
Well, in the Superman versus Batman movie, they were two cities sitting at opposite ends of a bay like Oakland and San Francisco. Which I thought was very interesting. Stupid? I thought it was very interesting. Apparently I'm stupid now. Okay.
The movie.
I'm calling my agent in the morning and see if I actually signed up for this abuse in my contract. I probably did. It was probably right there. You probably put it right there in like the fine print. And Tim can abuse John.
I have the power of the final edit on this. I'm just going to re-edit your words.
Because John hasn't worked since that extra gig on One Tree Hill in Wilmington, North Carolina. And
I thought it was Dawson's Creek.
There was Dawson's Creek. There was One Tree Hill. There was.
And you told me you gave Gregory Peck a ride.
I had to give Gregory Peck a ride. I was an extra in a movie. While we were working on it, it was called Painting Churches. But when they released it was on TBS or TNT. It was a TV movie, and they called it The Portrait, or vice versa. I can't remember. The title that we were working under wasn't the title that it wound up being.
But was Gregory Peck the star of this movie?
Gregory Peck and Lauren Bacall were the stars.
So you picked him up, and he was never seen
because we forgot to pick up our star. I don't know what happened there, but I get this frantic.
Oh, you forgot to pick him up?
Well, I think there was some confusion on who was actually responsible to get him. It wasn't like it was super late. It wasn't like Gregory Peck was sitting around waiting for somebody to pick him up, although it was pretty darn close.
He was at the airport.
No, he was staying at the house.
He was at the airport. Never mind. I was going to make some bad jokes.
He was at the airport waiting for... he rolled a 20-sided die, and he was waiting for his friends to get... Anyway...
All my jokes are inappropriate. They involved the bathroom. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Anyway. Well, I had a friend who's no longer with us, and he worked for this production company, and I had met him doing different extra gigs, and we sort of struck up a friendship. And actually, I think he's the one who actually got me the job, and he's the one who frantically calls me because I was the only one he knew how to get up with because everybody else was at the party.
He called you. Gregory Peck's wandering around the airport.
Can you get Gregory Peck? Well, all I had was a 1985 Ford Tempo with five speed on the floor, and so I put all I had clothes and food wrappers, and I just threw everything in the back seat. So
you put up that little green tree that makes it smell okay.
Exactly. So I'm driving up. So I drive up to the house, and I knock on the door. I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Peck, I'm here to take you to the function," and of course, he's used to being chauffeured around. He automatically goes for the back seat. I'm thinking why I thought Gregory Peck was going to sit in the front seat with me, I have no clue. And then, so I'm like, okay, wait a second. So I'm throwing all the stuff back up into the passenger seat. And then finally he says, and then I couldn't find the damn, it was on some road near the beach and I couldn't find it. I had to keep going back and forth. And
this is before Google Maps, right?
Exactly. This is 1993.
Okay.
And so I finally have to go into a convenience store and ask for directions. And it turns out the road was right behind the convenience store. But when you finally stop and ask for directions, oh yeah, you just go around the corner after you've been going around for a half hour. So I go back to Gregory Peck. So before I go into the convenience store, I turn to Gregory Peck and I say, "Would you like a Slim Jim or something?" And he just wouldn't speak to me. He's like, "What the hell is happening here? Who am I working for?"
If he invited you in, I thought he was having a fun time by this time.
Well, that was the funny part about it, was that he just didn't say two words to me the whole time, and I'm sweating. I mean, I am sweating bullets. It's Gregory Peck is going to flag down a state trooper and have me arrested for kidnapping. So finally, I'm so I get in, and then I get in. The guy who's running the party is "Okay, thank you for bringing him. You're all set. You can go now." Because I didn't see my friend right away. My friend who's told me I could go to the party if I picked up Gregory Peck.
Okay.
And Gregory Peck turns to the guy and he said, "Oh no, you are going to let this young man into this party. This young man went through a lot to get me here."
Oh, wow. That's nice.
So he wound up being a decent guy in the end, and I did get to meet Lauren Bacall.
Oh my God!
Lauren Bacall comes up to me and says, "So, young man," and my bad Lauren Bacall, which sounds like my bad Kate Hepburn. "Well, young man, I heard that if I ever need a ride, I should call you." And she turns on her heel and walks away.
Oh, what kind of story did he tell her?
Who knows? I wouldn't look over at him. I was so embarrassed. I'm sure there was a lot of pointing.
He was probably like, he was trying to give me a Slim Jim. What are they?
He was trying to give me a Slim. What does that mean? Would you like a Slim Jim? Is that some sort of sexual innuendo? Would you like a Slim Jim?
His underwear were in the back seat. What was he trying to say?
And then he's probably like, and I won an Oscar for. He must have been so depressed. Like, is this really all I can get? I won an Oscar for playing Atticus Finch, and this is the best I can do.
He did some bad movies after that.
A TV movie, and I have to get driven to a party in a 1985 Ford Tempo. I don't think he worked after that, actually.
Well, he was never seen again.
Gregory Peck announces retirement. I was like, what? I just gave him a ride to a party. I don't understand.
We're going to talk about a movie you wanted to watch with a person whose
career is also kind of waning, I guess you could say, huh?
Well, I want to say before we talk, I love the Beatles, and I love Ringo.
Yes.
And I'm going to laugh about this, but I just want to say, no, I'm not coming down hard on him.
Go ahead, just say it.
No, I'm just saying I love the. I think when I was young, people were like, "Yeah, Ringo, they could have had any drummer," but when you get older and try to play instruments, you're like, "No, it's hard to play any instrument." And,
it is. Yeah.
I don't like to be like, yeah, you're just a drummer. They could have had any drummer or whatever. But they couldn't because they got rid of two drummers before that. So
yeah, Pete Best and Stu Stewcliffe. Yes.
Yeah, your facts.
Well, no, because Pete Best did a show up here. I had come back up to live up here from 2008 to 2011. Mm-hmm. This is after I got laid off from my corporate job in the economic downturn. And Pete Best was doing a show over in, oddly enough, Liverpool, New York, outside Syracuse. Yeah. So
was he being ironic?
I think so. I think so. I think that must have been, maybe he just was like every Liverpool in the world. Maybe it was the Liverpool tour.
Did you give him a ride after that?
I did not give him a ride. No, I never did give him a ride after that.
Because he'd also be like, "What is this Slim Jim?
What is this Slim Jim you speak of? I do not know what you speak of. This Slim Jim. I know Guy Fawkes. I don't know Slim Jim."
He tried out for the Monkees. I don't think he got in there either.
Oh, Pete Best did? I did not know that. I knew there was a long list of. We spoke about this, about Pete Best.
The Monkees, I know. That's a joke.
Oh, sorry. I too can step on a joke, Timothy.
You can.
I can. See, anybody at any time can step on a joke. It's all right.
Well, what's this movie we're talking about? Because you picked it. You didn't do a good job with the synopsis of The Heretic. Exorcist 2, but you...
I didn't. I thought I did an awesome job. At least
you said one word. Why?
At least that was my synopsis. Why?
So you give me the synopsis of this movie, this Ringo special.
At least I called it the synchronizer. At least I called it by its proper name and not the light bulb thingy. So
the light bulb machine.
The light bulb machine.
So what is this we're going to talk about?
Well, we're talking about. It's called Ringo, and it's a 1978 made-for-TV movie, which aired on NBC. And if anybody was around in 1978, Tim and I were speaking of this earlier. Really, the only thing you watched on NBC in 1978 was Saturday Night Live. I don't ever remember watching because everything else was either on CBS or ABC.
Mm-hmm. I think CBS had Mary Tyler Moore and Maude and All in the Family.
Bob Newhart, All in the Family, Carol Burnett. And ABC had Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and Three's Company.
That's true.
I don't ever remember watching anything on NBC.
I think they had a lot of dramas, and I don't know.
Probably.
They had Little House on the Prairie, I think.
Little House on the Prairie. Little House on the Prairie would come on at 8:00, and my mother would be in tears by 8:20.
It's true.
Little girls with uneven legs and babies dying and children going blind. And it was a little too, you're right. There was a little,
it was too much.
It was just too much for my little mind to handle.
I know I watched it, but it depressed me.
Oh, well, you had to. Because, your mom and my mom were probably very similar in some ways where Because
I remember her sister, Laura's older sister, she does go blind in the show. And I remember it was like a 2-parter that she went blind or that she maybe was going to get her sight back. And I couldn't watch the second part. And I went to school the next day. And there was one little girl, obviously, that watched Lost the Prairie.
She was in tears.
None of the boys watched it. I think I was the only one, but or they didn't admit it.
They didn't admit it. They didn't admit it. If anybody had a mother in 1978, you were watching Little House on the Prairie. Trust me.
And I said to her, "So how did she get her eyesight back?" And she's like, "She didn't. She went blind." And I remember thinking, "What? No. How'd she get her eyesight back? Come on." And so yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that shocking moment. Like, no, it's a TV show where everything gets better at the end.
It can't be true. No, they can't know. But then this is 1860, so who knows? But so this was Ringo Starr's TV special. It was to promote his album, which was coming out at the time, called Bad Boy.
Okay.
Ringo's 2 previous studio albums went absolutely nowhere. This album went absolutely nowhere. He did another album around 1981 called Stop and Smell the Roses, which came out around the time that I met you, Tim, when we were 15. Mm-hmm. That album basically went nowhere.
Did you buy it? Is that why you know this, or you just didn't?
I didn't know. I remember the song on Casey Kasem's American Top 40.
Yes,
and it stuck around for a week, and then you never heard of it again.
This movie was based basically on. Did you read? It's basically a version of
Prince and the Pauper. Yep.
It was written by Neil Israel and Pat Proft. Did you see what they are famous for writing?
Mr. Tom Hanks and Bachelor Party.
Oh, that's right. They did write that.
Yes, they did.
But the big thing is they wrote...
There was something bigger than Bachelor Party? What?
Well, something that had 8 sequels called Police Academy.
The Police Academy movies, yes. Were there 8 sequels?
Well, 7 or 8, I don't know.
I think I stopped. I think after number 4, I was like, I think I've had enough of this.
I think I saw one of them, and I was like,
which is kind of how I felt about the Friday the 13th movies.
Even worse, while I was doing this research, I saw that Meatballs had there was a Meatballs 4, so there were 3 sequels.
I know. I remember the Meatballs 2. The other 2 must have been direct to video or something, huh?
I think the last one might have been. It had Corey Feldman.
Well, yeah, definitely direct to video.
Anyway,
actually, he had his name legally changed to Corey Direct to Video Feldman.
Oh, God!
Little known entertainment fact.
We are the cruelest podcast.
We are no. I'm sure we are not the cruelest podcast. We're just speaking the truth, Tim. It's not like we're speaking about Corey Haim, the other Corey who is no longer around to defend himself.
No.
If Corey Feldman wants to come on this podcast and defend himself, Corey, there's an open invitation.
Yes.
At SETI BIM.
Email us. SETI BIMCO with an E.
Yeah. If you can attach a voicemail, we're not spending any money for voicemail, but if you want to attach a file with a voicemail, you can do that.
So, John, who was in this movie?
Actually, it was a pretty darn good cast. Okay. If they were flashing this up as an ad, and it was Art Carney, Academy Award winner Art Carney, how he beat out Al Pacino in Godfather Part 2, I still have no clue. Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
He won for a movie called Harry and Tonto.
Oh, wow. And I don't think I ever saw that movie.
He plays an older gentleman who loses his rent control apartment in New York. And he's Harry, and Tonto is the cat, and they get in the car and they drive out to California. I think he's going to meet the daughter, who is played by Ellen Burstyn from the original Exorcist.
Maybe I did see this. This all sounds familiar.
It's what they call a small film, Tim. A small film, which, But yeah, he beat out Al Pacino for Best Actor for The Godfather Part 2.
Now tell me, was the cat real, or was it like...
The cat was real. No, it was not. It wasn't like Harvey. No, this was not Harvey. No, Harry and Tonto and Harvey. No, it was not that. Which is a great movie. I love that movie, Jimmy Stewart.
So Angie Dickinson was in this playing a police officer because I think at the time she was playing policewoman.
She was playing.
Was that the joke?
She was playing Pepper, yes, on Policewoman, which was on NBC.
They had to, yeah.
They had to get her. And Mike Douglas does a cameo.
Carrie Fisher. Vincent Price is in this.
Vincent Price is not. Was Vincent Price playing himself, or was he playing a character? I can't remember now. Doesn't really matter. He was Vincent Price. He was Vincent Price. He was just
Vincent Price and John Ritter.
And John Ritter played the agent or the manager. He actually did a pretty good job on it. No, seriously, there were like little bits and pieces of it. They're like, actually, you know what? This isn't half bad. Like so the premise is that there's Ringo Starr and then Ogner Rats, which is Ringo Starr spelled backwards. And they were two twin babies, separated at birth. Ringo was raised in Liverpool. We all know what happened to him.
Yes.
Ogner is raised in Los Angeles.
And he's a nerd.
Opens up, and he's a nerd, and it opens up with him selling maps to the Starrs' homes. And these two nuns pull up. There are some very clever little bits in it. And
I was going to say, if I were a kid, and it was still like, I would be laughing at these jokes.
I'm going to admit, as a big kid, I kind of did laugh at this joke.
I did.
She goes, do you have a map with the homes of Jill St. John, Susan St. James?
Jill St. James, yes.
Peter, Paul, and Mary?
Joey Bishop.
Joey Bishop was the actor. Like, no, there were little bits where, and I remember you talking, because actually you were the one who initially brought up this this movie. We were talking when we were starting, when we were in the planning stages of this podcast, you had brought this up. And I was like, well, let me take a look at it. So I kind of stole it from you because I was like, well, how about we'll talk about the Ringo TV movie.
Yes.
And there were actually little bits and pieces. And you were talking about how George Harrison was kind of like, I don't really want to be doing.
Can't you tell? He doesn't want to be there. He's just like, here's my lines. Here's my bad jokes.
I think, but see, that's just, I think he realized what it was. I think he actually was a pretty good sport about it because he's
helping out his friend.
He's helping out his friend. Like the part about, Ringo always calls collect. You know? Yes. Ringo called me collect. And one of the reporters asked, "Does that seem odd to you?" He's like, "Oh, no, Ringo always calls collect."
Yes.
So, no, George just did it because he did it tongue in cheek.
And that hair on George. Ooh.
Oh, that was pretty bad. That was like borderline Jerry curl. I mean, yes. that was a really bad.
Well,
I think that was the year he became a dad, too. I think that's when Danny was born in 1978.
It was in fashion for like a week.
That was pretty bad hair. That was really, really bad hair.
There was a lot of bad hair.
There's a lot of bad hair. But, so Ringo he's got this manager, John Ritter, working him to death, has every hour of the day planned out, and Ringo wants to get away.
Right.
And they run into each other, and Ringo has Ogner take his place.
You're leaving out some really good jokes there. He's like, we got to do work. His manager is saying, we got to do work tomorrow. We got to do work yesterday. We got to do work tonight.
Yes.
And he was like, what? Something he says, what about yesterday? And he's like, that's not your song.
That's not your song, yeah.
So there's many bad jokes about Beatles songs in this.
Yeah, and then he's script. Like, you've got 10 minutes for dinner. You have 10 minutes to eat. And then Ringo's like, well, I have to go use the bathroom. He's like, well, that's going to cut into your mealtime then.
Right.
Like he's like a nobody. Like he's just like this. These were taskmaster.
These were pure vaudeville jokes. That's what that I think Neil Israel and
that's right.
Pat Proft. I didn't look too much into their history, but this was.
It's a parallel. They collaborated on a lot of things.
Yeah, and it's very vaudevillian.
Yeah, it's very. It's the jokes they wouldn't use on Sid Caesar's Your Show of Shows in the 50s.
Right.
They're like, I knew we saved these jokes for a reason. We'll use them for the Ringo special. And Carrie Fisher plays his girlfriend.
It's questionable that he sings "You're 16, you're beautiful in your mind" to Carrie Fisher because she's his girlfriend. But the
whole premise of that song, though, I mean, even when it was just like a single, even the original back in the 60s, I mean, you're 16, you're beautiful. I guess if your target audience is high school students, I guess that is not so creepy.
No.
But when Ringo releases a song and Ringo's like 35 to singing about you're 16, you're beautiful. And I heard it was Roman Polanski's favorite song at the time, though. But
you're the whole song thing. I think they opened with the song "All I Want to Do Is Boogaloo." Is that the name of the song they opened with?
Yes,
I don't. That
and they
was that Ringo's song?
That was a Ringo song.
Okay.
Yes, that is a Ringo song. I mean, when I say Ringo song, did he write it? I don't know if he wrote it.
That's what I wondered.
He probably did. I don't know. I didn't check on the songwriting credits.
He co-wrote a few songs. I have like the complete Beatles songbook, and he co-wrote. Is it 2 of them? And then he did that song that was actually originally by the country singer. They do it in this movie, Act Naturally. That was originally by one of the guys who actually ends up who's on Hee Haw. I can't remember his name. Or is he not him?
Buck Owens?
Was it by him? I think it was by him originally, yes.
Buck Owens. Yeah, Buck Owens actually had a really big career outside Hee Haw. I didn't even realize it until later in life. He actually had some really good he had some really, really good music. Ringo Starr had an excellent solo career. Nobody thought he was going to do anything. I mean, I know George Harrison wrote Photograph, which was one of his biggest hits. But no, I mean, Ringo had for about maybe about 3 years or so there in the early to mid 70s, he had a pretty good solo career going, and then he just released a few albums, and one was kind of Ringo the Fourth, which was kind of I don't remember that. It didn't get any radio play. It was kind of a disco influence. Well, everybody was doing disco then, you know.
He just did about. I think he went into Hollywood and got some money. He was in that movie Caveman, and I don't know what other
Caveman
things
with his wife Barbara Bach. Yeah.
And how about that interpretive dance to Yellow Submarine?
Oh my gosh.
Is that his song, by the way?
Did he write Yellow Submarine? I don't know. I know he wrote Octopus's Garden.
If I had my book next to me, I could tell you. At least it wasn't like underwater and submarines. It was just people dancing in yellow, I guess, because the film I saw was so faded.
Yeah, same here. No, it's written by Lennon and McCartney.
Okay.
But here's a little fact. I get stuck in these Wikipedia rabbit holes. And I didn't realize that the Beatles didn't do their voices in the animated movie.
Really?
Those aren't the Beatles doing the voices.
That would be a waste of time. You'd rather have them recording albums. But who did it? Did they name them, or is it just...
Actually, yes, they did. And actually, one of them is...
It didn't matter for us Americans. Just somebody doing a Brit accent.
Really, was it John Clive?
A Liverpool accent.
Oh, yes, the one... Okay, yes, okay. Did you ever used to watch a show, and maybe you've never seen it before, but they show it on PBS a lot, called Keeping Up Appearances? It's with Patricia Routledge.
It's terrible. Listen, I have seen it.
The Bouquet residence and lady of the house speaking.
But I've watched it because it's like, this is so terrible. But go ahead, John. It's okay if you like it.
The guy who did, I do like it, but that's all right. The guy who did Onslow, the brother-in-law.
Yes. Did
the voice of Paul McCartney in the Yellow Submarine. That's who the famous one I was thinking of, yes. Jeffrey Hughes. Jeffrey Hughes.
The brother-in-law who's always in bed with the wife. He's watching TV.
Yes, he's always watching TV. He's got to bang the top for it to turn on. And they're on the dole. And they have the gate. And there's the doggo. He's out in the abandoned car barking at Hyacinth.
He did Paul McCartney's voice.
He did Paul McCartney's voice in Yellow Submarine. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I knew there was somebody. I just couldn't think about it. But we're getting off the Ringo topic here.
No, that is that's fine. We'll get back to Ringo here.
We'll get back to Ringo. So,
interpretive dance. That was not loving that.
That was I wonder. I don't know how much prep time went into this. I'm guessing Ringo didn't see a script before he signed on to do it. I think they just might have gone, here, Ringo. Just go into your dressing room, do the best you can with the script, and just come on out in half an hour.
That is the story I'd like to know, is how this came to be. Who said, hey, I've got an idea. Because somebody, I read through the names. I didn't recognize the producers.
No, neither did I. Although Jeff Margolis was the director. He does a lot of the Academy Awards. Oh, that's probably where you hear the name a lot, because it gets nominated for the Emmy every year. But yeah. So yeah, that's Jeff Margolis. He directs a lot of the Oscar telecasts these days.
Where are we here?
I've
got lots of notes.
Okay, well, let's start with Agner Retz, who's selling these maps to the Houses of the Stars. He lives with his father, played by Art Carney, who is a tyrant.
He's like an abusive parent. It was kind of disturbing.
Although, shouldn't Agner at age 30, whatever he is, have moved out of the house at this point?
Yes.
And he's like, "Where's the money? Give me the money." And he's like, "That's all I've got." And the father reaches into his mouth and starts pulling out all these bills.
Yes.
Because he's got the date with his girlfriend, Carrie Fisher. Yeah.
I mean, come on. Did his father never meet his girlfriend, Carrie Fisher? Why was he so
I don't know. I don't know what was going on there.
When Vincent Price shows up, that's when he did that bit. I swear it's from an Abbott and Costello movie where he's doing, I can hypnotize someone with a snap of my fingers, a wave of the hand, and behind him is Ringo falling asleep and waking up.
Yeah.
Isn't that an old bit from some movie?
If it's not something from Abbott and Costello, it's heavily influenced by it, yes. Of course, at that point, Vincent Price was, let's face it, let's call him what he was, a media whore. Vincent Price, if it involved a paycheck.
But we all loved him.
We all loved him. Oh, no, more power to him. Hey, look, if I could do it, if somebody was offering me that amount of money, hey, you want to come into a Ringo Starr TV movie? You do one scene, we're going to pay you. I don't know, what were they paying him at the time? $15,000? Sure, I'll do it,
Which in the industry is known as a Slim Jim.
A Slim Jim.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could I get you a Slim Jim?
Trying to call back that Slim Jim.
Can I get you a Slim Jim? So Art Carney is the abusive father, and John Ritter is the taskmaster of a manager. So basically, Agner and Ringo, how did they run it? They just ran into each other on the street, didn't they?
He saw him. Yeah, he's like, "Look at that poor slob. Look at all these lonely people." And then he also says, "That's not my song either."
That's not my song either. Yeah.
And they switch places.
And Agner becomes Ringo.
But Agner breaks down right away. He's like, "I'm on a break. I can't do this." And
yes.
And they think something's wrong with him.
Something's wrong with Ringo. And
while the real Ringo is like, he buys a hot rod from someone with all his money and goes out with Carrie Fisher, but still can't escape the father.
Still can't escape the father. And gets arrested by Angie Dickinson.
Yes.
For Grand Theft Auto.
And they do fun. Again, if I was a kid, I'd be laughing at the gags. They're taking his photo at the police station with one of those photo machines that you put $1 in.
Yes, yeah. And they're looking at the strip. And he just, very casually, while they're looking at the strip, his eyes are open. No, they're closed. His eyes are open. No, they're closed.
And he escapes.
And while they're arguing about that, he escapes. Nothing.
It was
silly. It was very silly. It was basically a platform to promote his. Had it been 6 years later, he would have done something on MTV to promote it.
Right. That's true.
But there was no MTV then, so you've had 2 failed albums in a row. It's been 3 years since you've had a hit.
But he had these tours, Ringo and his all-star band tour, where musicians would join up with him, didn't he? Didn't he have successful tours?
Well, that was in the late 80s, though.
Oh, was it? Okay.
That was like the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, because then he was trying to break into acting, too, because then he had that Caveman movie.
Yeah.
And
I looked up a lot of, some people on YouTube will put up something called the Black Album. There's a couple of them where they kind of put songs that were written while they were the Beatles, but they released them after they broke up, on their own albums.
Mm-hmm.
And also songs where, George Harrison, he played guitar on some John Lennon solo albums, and Ringo played drums on some George Harrison. There was a lot of crossovers where they'd be working on each other's albums, but I kind of noticed nobody went to work on Paul's album. So I don't know, take of that what you will.
Although on Year 16 by Ringo Starr, do you know what Paul McCartney played on Year 16?
Oh, did he play on that?
He played the kazoo.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
He did, yeah. Yeah. Well, but then you also have to realize that Paul McCartney was actually not technically a solo artist. He was in a band, Wings.
Well, he was solo first, then he formed that band. His first album.
Right.
Was...
Well, just what I'm saying. Well, that first album, probably nobody was going to work with anybody, and then he was in a band, and it was like, well, do we really bring in? Do we pull a Billy Preston and start having like Wings with George Harrison? They're just
Yeah.
So maybe that was the reason why Denny Lane from the Moody Blues was the guitarist of the band. Mm-hmm. So maybe that was the reason why they never played.
Where are we with this? They are. They get Vincent Price because they think they have to hypnotize Ringo back into thinking he's Ringo because he's not Ringo. Right. And Ringo is running around dressing up like a woman with Carrie Fisher to sneak back to the studio. Is that what happened?
They find everything in a garbage can.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that? They just happen upon this garbage can, and in the garbage can is the dress, the wig, there is one. I can't remember. There's one thing that he refuses to wear out of the garbage can, and I can't remember what it is now. And it might actually be kind of funny, but I don't remember it now. Yeah, but like the whole outfit is like, oh, here's this garbage can, and oh, here's your disguise. It just happens to be in this garbage can.
I may have gone into a coma at that point. I don't know.
You may. I think we were all kind of like, is this over yet? Yes. And on a sadder note,
here comes the sad notes. We're not talking about.
I'm just talking about the ratings of the show. The program finished 53rd out of 65 network primetime programs for the week.
Ooh. You know why that was? Because it was filmed. It was recorded in mono. I mean, come on.
There you go. But here's the thing. There were 12 shows that less people tuned into. How do you think
three stations?
How do you think those people felt though? Like, these are probably like regular series too. Like they probably put their heart and souls into these shows week after week after week after week, and they're at the bottom of the ratings. They're at the bottom of the ratings, and then they open up the ratings only. They're like, Jesus, Ringo even beat us.
Do you know what night that was on? It was a Wednesday.
It was a Wednesday. Okay.
So I don't know what was on TV on a Wednesday. I just remember, like, I think Happy Days was on Tuesday.
Search.
I do it. What happened on this date? Saturday Night Fever goes number 1. The funeral of Pope Paul VI.
Yes.
Did you know? Maybe that's what everybody was watching that night. The funeral of Pope Paul VI. You know, John?
That could be.
America's a very pious nation.
Well,
let's watch Ringo with the Pope.
CBS had the Jeffersons Good Times in the CBS Wednesday night movie. I wonder what the CBS maybe it was a gun. Maybe it was a gun in the house.
A gun in the house. We're going to watch that next. Why are we laughing about that?
Doesn't Sally Struthers always make you laugh?
Yes.
Remember Ringo, the TV movie we were talking about?
Yes. He's supposed to play drums.
This is like, and that's when Ringo decides, oh, I've got to get down there. And they get to the garbage can and find the entire disguise in the garbage can, which actually in LA isn't out of the realm of possibility.
No, it's not. That's where the followers of of Manson family, they were going through the garbage.
Yes. So, that's where they got their food.
So anyway, he gets back to the studio in time to do his concert, which, sad to say,
is from the album Bad Boy. It's from yes. It's like when you go to it's like when you go see that act in the 80s today, and they're like, now we're going to play something from the new album for you. You're like, no, not the new album.
So Ringo does his concert, and sad to say, I didn't love his three song concert.
As I heard, I kind of just sort of fast forwarded it just to make sure there wasn't something funny in the closing credits. I'm going to admit. I was kind of like just going along. I was moving.
John, you didn't watch it. I watched the whole thing, and you don't watch this movie.
No, I did not watch the concert first. I was like, maybe there's like a little funny bit. Like, I'm thinking like maybe there's gonna be like a little funny bit when they're doing the closing credits. So no, I don't know. But I don't know. I don't know what the songs were. I'm going to be upfront with you. I didn't watch that part.
up in the corner of YouTube when I was watching this, it showed that Ringo was on the Donahue show on April 17th. He was there to promote this special. And I thought, well, I might as well click on this because this movie is it's an hour special, I think. I don't think it was a movie. So I clicked on the Ringo being on Donahue and watched a good amount of it because number one, he was there to plug the show, because even when Mike Douglas said, "You did a special, right?" And he's like, "Yep, I know the date, the network, the time." He told everybody when it was going to be on. And he took questions from the audience, which was the worst thing to do because, as you can imagine, he got questions like, I wrote them down.
Wait, was this was this the Mike Douglas show? Or you said Phil Donahue.
Mike Douglas.
Mike Douglas. Wait, okay, all right.
Wait. He was on the Phil Donahue show.
Okay.
Let me back up. He was on the
and
Phil
Mike Douglas was
Donahue
guest hosting
show.
it.
No. He was on the Phil Donahue show.
Because all of a sudden Mike Douglas is on, like, what?
Mike Douglas was supposed to be there, but nobody picked him up, and they had to call someone real quick to go get him at the airport.
So he's sitting in the car somewhere there eating a Slim Jim.
Yes. No, it was Phil Donahue. And they're like, does the audience have questions? And people were like, so that song number 9, what was that all about? And Ringo's trying to be nice as possible. And he's like, well, that was a pretty interesting song that John wrote. If I went, he was like, he tried to make the best. He's like, we went downstairs and I helped them cut up some sound recordings they had in the library, and we taped them together. And then someone else said, so Eleanor Rigby, who was she? What was that about? And he's like, well, if Paul was here, I'm sure he could tell you, but I think it was about this and that.
And then the next question was, how are you and Eric Clapton now that your wife left you for him?
Yeah. Oh my God, that audience.
And that was that still in the Chicago days? Or that could have even been like the Columbus, Ohio days.
That I don't know. I didn't watch the whole thing because it was sad.
Poor Ringo.
Yeah, poor Ringo.
And then the album did.
And somebody was like, so since the band broke up, what have you been doing? That's what somebody said to him. You should go look this up and watch it.
Oh my God, I should have watched that had I known. See, if I hadn't like fast forwarded through the concert footage,
I would have
seen that. Okay, now I'm going to have to actually like listen to some of the music.
These YouTubes are geared for you, John. So you're getting the vacation YouTube videos and Slim Jim advertisements.
Snap into a Slim Jim. No, I haven't been getting that a lot.
Well, that was a fun special.
That was a fun special. Actually, there were some very fun parts to it.
If it were black and white and it was Abbott Costello, I'd be like, okay, this is fun.
I'd be like, that was awesome. May I just say I'm glad I didn't lose an hour or two of my life in 1978 to watching that.
No. It was April. It was probably nice out.
Yeah,
oh no, it was 9. It was 9 o'clock.
I might have even been in bed if it was a Wednesday night.
Yeah, that might have been like
that might have been bedtime. That might have been bedtime. Plus, like there would have been a fight to watch it, and like, and then I would have like, no, I'm watching it, and then like I would have won the one time I would have won the fight to watch TV, and it would have been this terrible special. They'd be like, we are never letting you pick a program again.
Yeah, I remember there being this was college. I had a roommate who was super into music, and Eric Clapton was on Letterman. This would have been 1986 when I think Eric Clapton is that when he just became like cleaned up from drugs?
So yeah.
He put out an album, and my roommate was just like, oh my God, Eric Clapton, his new album. I don't know if it had been 5 years since he made an album or something. I forget, but and we just had a little crappy TV when you're in college. But he was into music. I think he plugged it into the speakers and turned it all the way up. And the third roommate, he had to get up at 5 because he had a job at 5 in the morning. And I had, my job was at a ad agency. I didn't have to be there till 9. But anyway, the guy who had to get up, he stormed out of his bedroom. He's like, what's going on? You're playing the music so loud. It's Eric Clapton. I got to get up and go to work in the morning. And my roommate was like, his answer was, I remember, it's so funny. We were so immature. He's like, but it's Eric Clapton.
He was so funny. Like, why would you have that reaction to Eric Clapton? Not that he had it on,
you have it turned up all the way.
Not that he had it turned up all the way. It's like, how could you say that about Eric Clapton? Wow.
Anyway.
Well, Tim, that was another wonderful trip down memory lane in the entertainment of the late 70s. Ringo Starr.
I do want to thank Marcy and Dirk Feelgood at the Movie Mixtape podcast because they gave us a mention on their podcast.
I love the Movie Mixtape podcast.
Yes, go there.
If you get a chance, please listen to it. It is a fantastic podcast. After of course, you've listened to SETI BIMCO.
Yes, after you listen to ours.
First, you should listen to SETI BIMCO. And then after you've finished SETI BIMCO, then you go listen to the Movie Mixtape. And it really is. It's very entertaining. They do a great job over there, Dirk and Marcy.
Yes. Marcy helped me out with some audio advice, and that's why our podcast sounds so fantastic now.
God bless you, Marcy, if I believed in God. But
all right. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at SETIBIM and on Instagram at SETI_BIMCO, at Gmail with SETIBIMCO with an E at the end at gmail.com. That E
is the silent killer.
Next week, we're going to have a guest, and I never announce names because guests are always fluctuating.
Right. And with our little dog and pony show, who knows who's going to show up?
If there's no guest, though, I think after that, we're probably going to watch A Gun in the House because we keep talking about that.
We keep talking about it and figure out if it's maybe finally answer the age-old question: is it pro or anti-gun?
Right.
Which side of the Second Amendment does it fall, Miss Sally Struthers? We would like to know.
All right, John. I will talk to you next week.
I look forward to it, Tim, as always. Bye. And have fun walking Soul tonight.
Okay.
All right.
It's nice out.
SETI BIMCO is a podcast by Tim Hamilton and John Kelly, produced by Miss Lee, music by Tim Hamilton. This has been a Pity Party Line production.
Party line, it's a party line.